Hi everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. Welcome back to UPSC Aptica. Today in this video, I'm going to discuss ethno-linguistic vitality with you. This is a very important topic and all of you can use it really well in your essays, in your GS paper and also for psychology optional. Well, it can be used for other optional subjects too, but every optional requires more technicality, so I will not get into the other optionals and how you can use it there. I'll stick to psychology optional. But whatever we are going to discuss here, you can use either the whole of it or in bits and pieces, taking certain elements, certain researches, taking the right examples and using it in your essay, especially the topics which relate to language and culture. And you can also use it in GS for the similar topics which connect with language, culture, or the importance of literature in your culture. These are the places where you can take ethno-linguistic vitality on a serious note, give some really good examples. I am going to discuss this topic with all of you at length, like I discuss with my students for the comprehensive course. I will ensure I discuss each and every element like I do in regular classes. In case anybody has any doubt, you can either put it in the comment section, I'll try to answer you there, or you can reach out to me on the app UPSC Apticker or on Telegram, whatever is convenient for you. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Now I'm going to show you questions from psychology optional and essay topics so that you can understand what kind of questions have been asked and how you can be prepared. In psychology, this question has been asked in 2022. Discuss the factors involved in ethno-linguistic vitality in the Indian context. Now this Indian context makes it really important for you to understand. Your answer is not going to be just about the ethno-linguistic vitality theory, but you have to give your examples specifically to our Indian context, which basically is going to involve the diversity in terms of language and how it enriches the culture. Is going to be very important point of your discussion. And other than that, you can see some essay topics here wherein you can see youth culture today, modernism and our traditional socio-ethical values, Indian culture today, a myth or a reality. As civilization advances, culture declines. How has satellite television brought about cultural change in Indian mindset? Want you to understand that language and culture is such a topic which is never going to get outdated. When you hear any news related to any tribal language at the verge of extinction or any language getting in the category of endangered category, it is always going to come back and it can be asked to you either in essays or it can be asked to you in your GS papers as well. Well, psychology you've already seen, and next time it is not going to be just factors, but rather they might also ask you that how you can preserve it. Anyway, we'll discuss all of these things one by one. Let us move on to help you all get clarity that not just for these essay topics but for many other essay topics the same concept can be used. You can write a paragraph connecting language and culture to a lot of questions related to how media is influencing our culture, how culture is influenced by the globalization, and a lot of these things. You can always bring in these perspectives, so it's more about understanding the perspectives which are going to help you present your theme in essay or your answer really well, fetching more marks for you. Ultimately, the presentation part will discuss in psychology of answer writing, but let me just take you forward with discussion on ethno-linguistic vitality. Before that, just briefly, I want all of you to know that I am Devshri, a psychologist, educator, and mentor for UPSC aspirants. Well, those of you who are watching the video for the first time, I have been the only top educator and mentor for psychology at Unacademy, and now I'm here with UPSC Apticker to make civil services exam journey easier and impactful. In my ways, that is the student-friendly ways. Do join the Telegram channel and download the app to know more about the upcoming initiatives and learn more such topics in more relatable ways. Let's discuss our topic, ethno-linguistic vitality. Very briefly, if I can just give you the gist of it first, it simply means that any language is basically surviving because of the actions of the people or the group of people which are using that language. Do understand that more people, when they speak a language, the chances of that language to survive or to thrive are very high. But when there are very few people speaking a particular language, the chances of survival are going to become less. Now, ethno-linguistic vitality theory talks about the same aspect. It also highlights how language and culture are associated significantly. Well, that language and cultural associations are not just discussed in ethno-linguistic vitality theory. You have also seen that Sapir-Whorf's linguistic relativity hypothesis also highlights the same. Well, we have studied a lot more topics which highlight on the similar connection between language and culture. We have discussed in the other classes. You can watch it there. I'll keep giving you some hints to connect the dots here and there. So do understand that language and culture are connected and connected significantly. You can use term that they are interrelated. It will be definitely correct to say so. Please understand that language influences the culture and your culture influences the language. It is a bi-directional relationship. It is not a unidirectional. Means unidirectional means कि एक ही तरफ से influence आ रहा है दूसरे के ऊपर. But when you say it is bi-directional, language influences culture and your culture influences language. And if when you stick this video till the end, you are going to get some brilliant quotes to use in your answer. You will learn a lot which you can use in so many places. So watch this video till the end. Okay, thus, this theory was basically given by Giles, Burris, and Taylor in 1977. The extent to which a language is associated to a culture, right, are likely to survive and thrive in a multilingual setting. The interrelation we see, the bidirection we see, the influence we see, but the way a language is associated to a culture, and the more the number of people are going to use it, the higher the chances of survival and thriving of that language. Lesser the people, lesser the chances of survival. Which takes us to the point wherein they highlight that there are two main aspects which signify a language survival, which is sustainability and the strength of that language. Sustainability refers to the ability of the language to continue. What language can be continued? Any language which people are speaking in majority numbers. The languages where a huge crowd or a huge masses are using it will be able to survive, will be able to sustain, and it will be able to continue for a long time. But if a language is spoken by only, let's say, 5 people, 10 people, 15 people, means this language is already in the category of endangered and is at the verge of extinction. Because when these people are no longer there, people will not remember this language. We will be losing out on a language and also a culture. So we have to ensure that we are able to save the languages. When you talk about the strength part, it refers to the strength of any given language. Well, the strength also comes from the same fact. But that is why we are referring to it as vitality. The more the number of people, or the more the group is active in promoting or in using a particular language, the vitality for that particular language is going to increase. So the vitality of a language is related to the vitality of a group. Now here, the theory also discusses language death in the form of linguicide or glottophagy. It also identifies various processes that can help ensure a language's survival. When you look at the survival of a language, you can use revitalization, reclamation, and also reinvigoration for a particular language. Basically means coming up with initiatives to bring that language back or help that language survive by making more people learn that language, train people in that language, preserving the culture, literature of that language. These are certain initiatives which you will see around you, which are already in place to preserve a lot of language and helping it being transferred from one generation to another generation, or passed on from one generation to another generation. When you look at terms like linguicide and glottophagy, it simply highlights that how a language can die naturally as in the number of people who are speaking the language are declining, and as the last few people will also die, you will see that there will be nobody to use that language, and that is how a language dies naturally. Whereas in some cases, rare cases, it is known as glottophagy, which basically refers to the fact that this time the language is not dying because of the natural reasons or factors, but it is because of political reasons, or it is possibly because this language has been replaced by a language which is spoken by majority of the speakers. So when people themselves move toward majority speaking languages, leaving their own languages behind. So these are important keywords. Definitely all of you should ensure that you're using it in your answer, be it psychology or GS, and in essay definitely going to give you really good marks, right? Because these keywords are the gist, or you can say the essence of anything you are writing in your answer. The examiner is giving you marks for these important keywords, not to see that whether you know how to write or not. If you write with the keywords, you get the marks. Without keywords, you don't score good marks. That's when you get average marks. Now we are going on to talk about the importance of ethno-linguistic vitality. See, the major importance we see in terms of maintaining a language, in sustaining the cultural identity, and seeing that how language tend to shift and many languages enter the endangerment zone. When you talk about language maintenance, any group with high vitality are more likely to maintain their language and culture across generations. What examples can we take? We can talk about Hindi, you can see Tamil, Kannada, all of these languages are able to survive. Why? Because there is high vitality for these languages, right? We are talking in Indian context. You can again talk about English, because अभी ऐसा नहीं है कि Indian context में English बिल्कुल भी relevant नहीं है. It is also relevant, but अब बाकी अगर cultures देखते हो, बाकी countries देखते हो, they do not speak so many languages like we talk about languages in our country. We have 22 languages which are in our 8th schedule, right? And we have like thousands of smaller regional tribal languages. Yes, you might know hundreds of important or major languages, but there are a lot of languages, a lot of dialects which are not able to find their survival with ease, because people are shifting towards the modern languages. I'll discuss what are the modern languages these days. We'll come to that point as well. So when you say language maintenance, it is the group with high vitality which are going to maintain the languages they are speaking. So any group of people or majority of people, whatever language they speak, this language will be able to maintain or sustain its existence for a longer period of time in comparison to the other ones which are not widely spoken by other people. Now, when you talk about the cultural identity part, strong vitality reinforces group identity and cohesiveness. So it simply refers to the point that when a language or when a culture has strong vitality, it ultimately reinforces that group's identity. तो कोई भी group बहुत ही proud feel करता है उस particular language को लेकर. देखो, you might have seen this or this, that in a lot of regions in our country, people feel more connected to a particular language. You might have also seen that there are many times instances of discrimination on the basis of language, where it is simply highlighting that how deep connection is existing between language and culture, that people are feeling threatened when somebody is not speaking their language in their region, right? So it is again highlighting that how strong the vitality of a particular language can also reinforce the identity of a group, which is the people who speak that language, and it brings those people together. It enhances the cohesiveness. You will always see, if you're somebody who's traveling to a different state, to a different culture or a country, you might realize that people who speak the same language as you do, you will feel very connected to them, because now everybody else around you are speaking a very different language which you are not able to understand. So when we started our masters, it was a group of people. A lot of students were from South India, a lot of students were from North India. In North India again, there are different languages, and when in South India there were different languages. So somebody was speaking Kannada, somebody was speaking Malayali, and here we were Hindi folks, we were speaking Punjabi, and a little bit of Marathi. A lot of these languages were coming together. Now ultimately we see that in few days time, all the Marathi folks together, all the Punjabi folks together, the Kannada speaking crowd is in one area, and you will see the Malayalis together. So what is happening here, that people tend to club together, the cohesiveness is together with the folks who are speaking your own language, so the group identity gets strengthened. This is a very small example to make you understand. You might be seeing it around you all the time. So strong vitality reinforces group identity and cohesiveness. And when you look at the point of language shift and endangerment, the same part which I earlier highlighted, that low vitality means जब कम लोग उस भाषा को बोलते हैं, उस लैंग्वेज को यूज़ करते हैं, तो आप एक शिफ्ट देखोगे उस लैंग्वेज के अंदर. जब कम लोग बोलेंगे या उस लैंग्वेज को अबैंडन करने लग जाएंगे, तो उसकी वाइटलिटी गिरती जाएगी. अब कम वाइटलिटी बेसिकली सिग्निफाई करती है कि ये लैंग्वेज कहीं ना कहीं डिक्लाइन की तरफ आगे बढ़ रही है, अनलेस वी ट्राई टू revitalize it, reclaim it, or reinvigorate it. So this is how you can use it. By the way, these points which I've given you here can be used very well either in your introduction or as interlinking sentences, right? Plus it can go very well in the conclusion when you talk about language and culture, or if you are directly asked about ethno-linguistic vitality again. So you can use it. Try to put it in a single sentence and highlight the importance of the making that language, or ensuring that we are taking the right steps to ensure that this language survives, and not just survives but rather thrives. Now we have understood the importance. Let's just talk about some important factors too. जब आप factors की बात करते हो, do remember कि we are going to discuss it in Indian context. Is it important for us to discuss in the Indian context only? Can be a question many students might have. I want to understand that here in the question in psychology, they are asking you about the Indian context, and when you look at the essay topics, please understand you are writing civil services exam for India, right? Not for the world. So when you're doing that, yes, you can bring in few examples from the world if you want, but majority of the times the questions they're asking you or the essay topics they're giving you, they are hoping to see more of your discussion in the Indian context. It matters a lot because they first want to know how much you know your own country. Everything else you can learn when you have good understanding about your own culture. So that is why these, a lot of topics you will see on culture, directly, indirectly, you can use these points there. So we will be discussing it in Indian context at length. Let us have a look at various factors. All of you know, you're preparing for UPSC, that there are 22 scheduled languages and hundreds of other spoken languages, and when you start counting smaller tribal languages and different dialects, the number is going to cross thousands as well. The factors influencing the vitality of languages vary across regions and in different communities. Here are the factors. Very first factor which we are going to discuss here is the recognition and the status. Let me just tell you that the major factors which are discussed in the ethno-linguistic vitality theory are the status of that particular language, the demographics related, plus the institutional support that language receives in order to ensure that this language survives and also thrives. Here I will be discussing few more factors with you, because just 3 factors for our exam are not going to be sufficient. If you are writing it in your essay, or you are writing it just as a conclusion point in 2 to 3 sentences, then put these factors as keywords. If you are asked a direct question and you have to discuss it in detail, then you can discuss the points the way I am providing to you, making more number of headings and then writing your key points with examples. Here when you talk about recognition and status, you will see that many languages enjoy prestige and historical significance, and that is the reason they have high vitality, and because of this high vitality they are able to thrive. Languages like Hindi, Sanskrit, Tamil, they hold high status due to their historical, cultural and religious significance. Although Sanskrit and Tamil are much older in comparison to Hindi. Hindi is like a very young language, but still it is very popular, you can say, right? It has a wide reach, and because of the cultural and religious significance, Hindi is still used widely, and it has high vitality. It shares that prestige and that status in the society or in the culture. When you look at the economic utility part, when you see that English is also given a good status, especially in terms of our education, in terms of business and in our governance, when you see that in so many states English is the main language. See, for states to communicate among themselves, right, they cannot completely depend on the regional languages, so English is needed because there are so many languages. Different states have their own official language. When you talk about states like in South India, every state is using a different language. Even for them to communicate among themselves, they have to use English. So this is one reason that English is also very popular in our country, right? And English holds that high status due to the importance in education, governance, and in the organizational space. Then we also have the political recognition and the status given by our constitution to these languages. So when you look at the 8th schedule, you have some scheduled languages, a total of 22, right, in the Indian constitution. So they have received that official status because now they are given this institutional support. You see that these languages, because of the reason, experience, or one second, they enjoy high vitality. And again, because of high vitality, there are higher chances for these languages to survive. Moving on to the next part, you have demographic factors as highlighted here: status, demography, and institutional support, right? So you have seen the status part, the institutional support part. I'm now again showing you demographic factors. The population size matters. Again, as I told you, majority of people, when they speak a language, the chances for that particular language to survive are higher. So जब ज़्यादा लोग बोलेंगे तो फिर language वो survive करेगी ही करेगी, right? तो Hindi benefits from a large demographic base, and that is why Hindi enjoys high vitality. When you compare it, with any other language which is, mainly spoken because of its high distribution in a given region. For example, when you look at Tamil, people are using it in Tamil Nadu. When you talk about Kannada, mainly you will see people are distributed or basically they are more available in Karnataka who are speaking Kannada. Even I've learned that people here also have different dialects. I think that's the case everywhere. Even for Hindi we have been seeing that every few kilometers the dialect changes. Now Hindi is Hindi. I have seen the Braj Bhasha, and the typical the language, the way we speak in Mathura Vrindavan region is very different than the normal Hindi. Not as different that you cannot understand, but when you look at the way Haryanvi speak, the way people in Vrindavan speak, there is a difference which you can identify. You can easily distinguish between that. So yes, there are dialects, there are differences, but still Hindi as a language is still very popular, right? Because it has a huge demographic base. So you will see for other regional languages, the demographic base is small. It is just the people in that state are using it. So that is also one reason why they are not having very high vitality. But when you move towards the tribal languages, the demographic, actually shrinks very quickly. And because of that, they are, more in the, endangered phase, or you can say at the verge of extinction. So when you talk about the geographical concentration tends to strengthen the community ties, and it promotes the usage within a localized area. Now the same part here you can see when I was discussing about Kannada and all, you can see example of Assamese. Now Assamese, you are seeing, is mostly spoken in Assam, Kannada in Karnataka, and they're thriving in those regions because of the concentration of people in these regions who are using the language is very high. But you will not find a lot of people who speak Assamese or Gujarati or Kannada or Malayali. In that case, when you go to states like UP, Bihar, there you will again find people using Hindi, at max English, which is again, you might see different dialects, but again it is going to be these most commonly used languages in North. Then when you talk about the migration and urbanization, which is a very common trend, in these years in our country, when you look at that, migration is also influencing it, and because of migration to urban areas, you will see a shift to dominant languages. Now people, might have different dialects, or they might be, speaking very specific regional languages, or many people might also have understanding or awareness of some tribal languages too. But when they are migrating to major cities or metro cities, you see the culture is such that they have to adapt to the languages which are most commonly used there. Now for example, when I see here in Bangalore, most of the people are going to communicate to each other in English. They are not, all of them are not going to use Kannada, because सबको तो नहीं आती है ना भाई, पर हिंदी में भी नहीं ज़्यादा बात कर पाते हैं. So most of the people will communicate in English. When they see people from North India, they will communicate in Hindi. मतलब अब इन languages की dominance ज़्यादा है. When you are communicating, like one North Indian is communicating to another one, they will prefer Hindi over going into the specific dialects, and unless they are very sure that the person is also coming from the exact same culture or same region, right? And now because of that, those smaller regional languages which they used to speak in their regions, they are not able to use it here. Now because they are not using it, and the number of people are declining, because of that you will again see that the vitality of that language is going to come down. Lower the vitality, higher the risk for that language in terms of survival. So dominance of Hindi or English leading to a decline in the vitality of smaller regional languages like Bhojpuri or Konkani. Now, I might find very few people here in Bangalore who will be speaking Bhojpuri or Konkani, but I can definitely find a lot of people who are going to speak Hindi or English. Right? That is what it tells you, that how migration and urbanization is also responsible for low and high vitality of specific languages. Moving on to other factors, here you have institutional support. When institutional support is given to certain languages, it enhances the vitality of those languages, and other languages tend to suffer because they are going to experience either the same degree of vitality, and over a period of time, their vitality will fall down or it will be low. In our new education policy, 3 language formula is promoted. So here you can see regional language, Hindi and English are supposed to be taught, although it is not implemented with great success as of now. But as such, when you talk about the policy, it highlights that we should teach a regional language, Hindi and English in schools. Now this way you will be able to support the regional language, but it also elevates the status of Hindi and English, and that is what a lot of states are raising their concerns about. But moving on, the main part which you need to understand, remaining neutral and highlighting it, that especially when you talk from a psychological perspective, the child, when they learn more languages, like the greater the number of languages they can speak, and especially if they can learn those languages at an early time in their life, they will have better cognitive development, better cognitive adjustment. They will experience higher cognitive flexibility, which is very important and crucial for any individual survival. When you have better cognitive development in comparison to other peers, there will be better chances of success, better chances of adaptation to the changes in the environment. So being a bilingual, being a multilingual is always beneficial, not just in terms that you can communicate with people in all these languages. You will also get exposed to a lot of cultures, and other than that, you will see that the cognitive functions of yours are going to be better in comparison to people who are monolinguals or who speak only one language. I have shown you the researches in the class. Please refer to it. Please add all of those researches I've given you on bilingual and multilingualism. Let me just give you one reference here for others also to understand. See, when people speak multiple languages, the chances of cognitive decline or memory related disorders tends to get delayed in comparison to people who speak one language by 4 to 5 years, which is huge. And the similar things, the more the number of languages you use and you communicate in those languages, it is much better for you. You will see the cognitive decline for you as an individual is going to become very slow. So it can be extended from 4 to 5 years to 7 to 10 years as well, depending on if you have learned those languages early on. So it is a good idea to teach children multiple languages. If we come out of the politics related to it, it is only going to benefit the child when they learn 3 or 4 languages in school. Brilliant strategy if we can implement it. Then when you talk about media and technology, regional language television, radio, digital platforms, they have all enhanced the visibility of certain languages. Now you see, you have on OTT platforms, content available in regional languages, music available in regional languages. It is promoted, it is widely accepted and loved by people, right? So Bengali, Telugu, Marathi, every kind of movies you can see today. I remember, if I can give you one example, Kantara was one such lovely movie. Like, I really loved it. I've watched it so many times. If you know about it, if you have seen, right, you might have also felt it. Now it has basically come out of that barrier कि भाई कन्नड़ा आती है तो देख सकते हैं, नहीं आप feel कर पाते हो the way it is presented to you. Yes, subtitles available हैं, but you see that you get to learn about a different culture, and this is again a way in which you are trying to strengthen or increase the vitality of a particular language. When you look at government policies, state reorganization based on linguistic lines, like Andhra Pradesh is one example, but if you look at Punjab, that is another example. When you look at Telangana, the same scene. So all of these can be used by you in your answers, right? All of these have basically provided institutional backing for these regional languages. So good points which can fit in anywhere, in optional, in GS and essay, to ensure that you are able to write it really well. Use effective keywords, use good examples. I'm explaining to you all with the help of good examples so that it fits in your mind. It's very important, because if you're going to forget it after the video, then it is of no point. You should be able to remember it, to revise it once or twice, and you will be good to go. Then we are not going to stop with just the status, demography and institutional support. We will talk about few more factors. So cultural factors are also very important, and they play a significant role in the vitality of any language. So religious and ritual use. Here you can take Sanskrit as an example. So Sanskrit, although we say there are very few people who know Sanskrit really well, we're trying to teach Sanskrit in schools because we definitely want to conserve Sanskrit as well as a language. We want it to survive for a long time. So Sanskrit remains vital in religious context in India. Khas taur pe when you look at the rituals, most of the Hindu rituals are performed using Sanskrit as a language. It is not performed in Hindi. All the mantras you're chanting, havan you are doing, everything is in Sanskrit. So that is again a way using which you are able to promote a language, or you are able to enhance the vitality of a language. When you look at art and literature, rich literary traditions in languages like Bengali, Tamil, keep them culturally relevant and vibrant. Sangam literature, right? When you talk about Bengali, also I hope you guys know that the Bengali literature is like highly cherished by people. It's brilliant if you ever get to read or see it in forms of movies, anything. But the art and literature, you do not actually have to limit it to the examples I'm giving you. You are studying in history, right? Ancient history. You have studied your medieval history. You can take a lot of examples. You can cite these examples in your GS paper, in your essays as well, making your answers very enriched, right? So वहाँ से कुछ examples दो. I've given you Bengali and Tamil. You can bring in more about your Sanskrit, even for me, I have studied Punjabi, so I like Punjabi literature as well, and I see that how it influences your thought processes very positively at times. So when you see that literature में हम language को use कर रहे हैं, that is also going to enhance the vitality of it, right? क्योंकि जब literature में वो चीज़ आ गई है, आपके पास में एक manuscript की form में वो script बन के ready है, आगे वो generation to generation pass on होगी, तो लोग उसको पढ़ेंगे. तो this is one way to ensure कि ये जो languages हैं उनकी vitality बढ़े. अब ये related सिर्फ इसी के साथ नहीं है कि art and literature को लेकर है. If you see आज के time पर आपके जो जो OTT प्लेटफॉर्म्स हैं या जो मूवीज़ हैं जो आज मेन स्ट्रीम से थोड़ा हट कर दे आर ट्राइंग टू टच अपॉन द डिफरेंट स्मॉलर लैंग्वेजेस और डिफरेंट डायलेक्ट्स एटलीस्ट दे आर ट्राइंग टू टच अपॉन. That is also a brilliant way of increasing the vitality of smaller languages or regional languages, and it works both ways. Many a times you will see when they are touching upon certain languages or dialects, it is helping in enhancing the vitality, but everything else which is untouched, which people today remember as something which is popular or trending, and other things which are not even heard by others, these languages which are not heard by others are going to lose out. And because you lose out on these languages, you will see that this culture which relates to these languages will also start declining. So it works both ways, and because it works both ways, you will be able to use these points in your essay topics, like as civilization advances, culture declines, how satellite television brought cultural change. It has brought in positive changes too, but it has also brought in some negative changes, wherein people are moving more towards English, more towards the popular languages which they are seeing on television, and they are not paying that much attention to the languages which are more regional or more culturally oriented, and because of that we see a negative shift. But positive क्या है कि आज के टाइम पे we are touching upon a lot of dialects and smaller languages. आज के टाइम पे you have content available in a lot of regional languages. That becomes a plus point कि अब उनको भी एक platform मिलता है presentation के लिए. So you can present it in both the ways depending on the demand of the question, and you will have to learn to do that, because otherwise if you're writing it only in one direction you will not get marks. Next factor here is globalization and technological factors. Here you can see the impact of globalization. English आज भी dominate करती है हमारे country के अंदर in professional and academic spheres, because हम globalization की तरफ जितना बढ़ रहे हैं, जितना ज़्यादा हम दूसरी countries के साथ interact कर रहे हैं, हम देखोगे कि English की importance बढ़ती जाएगी. Many years ago people were not very much readily accepting English. There were still doubts and debates about that. But if you look at it today, एक पूरी economy चल रही है freelancing की, right? वो freelancing gigs कैसे काम कर रही हैं if you do not know the language. The thing is the connection with fear when you talk about language, and people have that same low vitality अगर हो जाएगी हमारी languages की, we are all going to so focused on English, that fear is genuine. It is not like baseless. It is true. But we also need to understand that when you are a developing nation and you want to grow, and people in the nation want to grow, English also becomes a crucial language, because for other cultures there's just one or two language which they are using, means in other countries, but here we have a wide variety. So we will have to learn so that we can be part of this globalization trend, but we also need to stick to our roots so that the languages we speak, the culture we hold, can be conserved and it can be passed on to newer generations. And there is no harm in learning multiple languages, as I highlighted. It only sharpens your brain. Born Vita से better multiple languages बच्चों को सिखानी चाहिए, वो ज़्यादा beneficial है. Born Vita Complan are not doing anything good for our children. Moving on, your digital revival. The availability of regional language content on digital platforms, YouTube, OTT platform, have provided new avenues for linguistic expression and revival. Same point I've already discussed with you with all the other regional language examples. Now you have intergenerational transmission. Here you can see efforts by families, and of course the community efforts also matter a lot. So this intergenerational transmission takes place when families remember the language. Again, you can present it in both the positive and the negative side. When families remember, then only they will be able to transmit the authentic language used to their children. When they are only switching to the modern version of it, they will not be able to transmit that dialect with ease. Now, just as an example, when I speak, if I have to speak Hindi, like I'm speaking either in classes or I am communicating with any student, right, in mentorship programs, or if I'm meeting anybody who speaks Hindi here, it's more or less I'm speaking the Hindi which everybody else can speak. I am never speaking the Hindi which is the traditional dialect of my area. Now, when I'm not speaking it, it is highly doubtful, unless my children are majorly exposed to it tomorrow, they'll be able to pick it. Or from me, it's very doubtful they are going to pick it. Reason being, I am myself not using it. So when I am not able to communicate in the dialect, I do not have that opportunity. It will be difficult for them to learn, because they will not see me speaking it more. Unless, of course, I make special efforts in making them learn it by speaking it in front of them and all of it. So you have to see, when families remember the language, they communicate in the language, when they speak more frequently, then only they will be able to pass it on to their children. Although my example was from Hindi's dialect, but you can take it. Now people are coming from different regions in metro cities. When they are speaking Hindi and English, Hindi and English, Hindi and English, and they are not speaking the regional languages very frequently, their children are exposed to only Hindi, English, or the regional language in that school. They will not remember their own language, their own roots. Because of that, you will see that the transmission, intergenerational transmission, will become difficult. So in order to facilitate intergenerational transmission, families play a very important role, and their language practices have to be maintained. Community wise effort, definitely in terms of celebrating language festivals or cultural events which present, when you get the opportunity to present your culture, your language properly, are also very important. Recently I've seen a festival here in Bangalore. It's celebrated every year. It's called Kannada Rajyotsava. If you know already, brilliant. If you not, you can use it as an example. In different states and different cultures, there might be more examples which all of you might know belong, depending on which state you belong to, you can use that as an example. Here, Kannada Rajyotsava, basically they celebrate their statehood day, and cultural events basically emphasize a lot more on promoting Kannada and highlighting the significance of it, why it is important. The same thing which we are discussing here in the video, they discuss in these events, and then they want people to use it more frequently and use it in front of their children, so that the children also will pick on the language and not just speaking English because all the schools here teach you in English, right? So that particular love for your language and then ensuring that you are able to, transfer it or transmit it to the newer generations is very important. So community-wide efforts like celebrating these festivals, hosting these cultural events contribute to the transmission of endangered languages. Here you can see examples like Manipuri and Santali. But this is not it, right? This is not it. Factors we have understood. There are some challenges as well. You need to understand from these challenges that for some languages it is all going fine, मतलब कोई prosper कर रहा है तो किसी का decline हो रहा है, and that decline we need to try to control. We have to reduce the pace of that decline, and we have to try that we are able to reclaim that language, we are able to reinvigorate that language, or we are able to revitalize that language. So when you see the challenges in the context of India, you will see that a lot of languages are basically losing out because of low vitality, because they're not getting institutional support, because there are limited number of speakers, or people are leaving these minority languages and moving on to speak major languages which are used commonly in metro cities or major cities where people are employed today. So according to UNESCO, many tribal languages like Toda and Nihali are critically endangered due to limited speakers and lack of institutional support. Low visibility of regional and tribal languages, the wider reach of few languages, and a very low visibility and lack of regional and tribal languages in education and in media again, your YouTube, OTT, movies, everywhere, right? You do not see all these languages. You are going to see the main popular languages. Because of the low visibility, it affects the vitality of these languages significantly, and it is going to work in the negative direction, because as the vitality comes down, you will see in few years these languages will decline. And you need to understand that once you lose out on a language, you will lose out on the cultural identity. Now, before I discuss this particular point, I just want all of you to know that in language and culture, which I have discussed with you in the classes, there I have given you good examples of how, first of all, there are similarities in different cultures, how language and culture actually interconnect and they are interrelated. There I've also told you that how important it is for us to, conserve these languages so that the culture is conserved. Now, with that point in mind, you need to understand that when less number of people are speaking it, or less number of people are existing who are able to speak it, and once they die, the language will also die. So we have to put in a lot of efforts. Now, I think 3-4 years ago, this topic was in news, right? There were articles everywhere wherein they were highlighting that how certain languages are endangered, mainly the tribal languages, which is going to be a wonderful example for your answers. Even in psychology, in different ways, they do ask about tribal languages decline, right, in the tribal knowledge which we used to possess and which we have, and as the language is going to decline, we might lose out on a lot of cultural or tribal knowledge which is related to our nature, right? अब ये ऐसा क्वेश्चन नहीं है कि जो सिर्फ साइकोलॉजी में पूछा जाता है, ये तो ऐसा क्वेश्चन है जो जीएस में पूछा जाता है, बट साइकोलॉजी में जबरदस्ती घुसा रहे हैं वो लोग. तो कनेक्शंस बहुत है साइकोलॉजी और जीएस में, बट आप फिर भी अच्छे से आंसर कर सकते हो क्योंकि ये सारे कॉन्सेप्ट सेम रहते हैं. डज नॉट मैटर साइकोलॉजी है या जीएस है, मेन कॉन्सेप्ट सेम रहते हैं. दैट इज हाउ आई ऑलवेज बीन टेलिंग यू कि भाई जो तुम साइकोलॉजी में पढ़ते हो जीएस में बहुत अप्लाई होता है, दिमाग लगाना आना चाहिए बस. जिसका दिमाग चलता है ना वो सब जगह अप्लाई कर सकता है, बिकॉज इट इज नॉलेज एट द एंड. इट इज नथिंग अबाउट साइकोलॉजी एंड अदर थिंग्स. नॉलेज है, जहां भी यूज कर सकते हो कर लो. अब वही थॉट्स है कि जब हमारे को वो लैंग्वेज का लॉस होता है, हम बहुत ज्यादा नॉलेज भी लूज आउट कर देते हैं, हम एक कल्चर को लूज आउट कर देते हैं, हम खो देते हैं उस कल्चर को, वो कल्चरल आइडेंटिटी को. तो ये जो पॉइंट्स मैंने दिए हैं ना आपको, ये आर्टिकल से ही दिए हैं, न्यूज़पेपर के आर्टिकल से ऐड करके डाले हैं, प्लस कुछ पॉइंट्स मैंने लैंग्वेज एंड कल्चर वाली स्लाइड्स में दिए हैं. आई हैव नॉट पुट एवरीथिंग हियर, व्हाट वाज मोर रेलेवेंट टू द लैंग्वेज एंड कल्चर पार्ट आई हैव गिवन देयर. सो यू टेक ऑल ऑफ दीज पॉइंट्स डिपेंडिंग ऑन द नेचर एंड द डिमांड ऑफ द क्वेश्चन. यू आर गोइंग टू use these points, these examples and researches in your answer, and you should be able to score good marks if you present it with good keywords. Remember this, I'm repeating it every time so that तुम लोगों का mindset change हो. तुम लोग पता नहीं क्या क्या लिखते रहते हो आंसर्स में, किस किस से सुन के, but it is all about important keywords. Now, language loss and cultural identity. Many tribal languages like Majhi, सिक्किम की है, कोरो अरुणाचल प्रदेश से, सिद्धि गुजरात, दिमसा असम, are at the verge of extinction. So you need to know and present it in your answers theme that whenever a language declines, the knowledge system is completely gone. ये tribal languages पे बहुत strongly apply करता है. Psychology में भी questions हैं, I'll show you when we study that relevant unit. GS में भी आप लोगों ने पक्का देखे होंगे. Here, with the loss of language comes the loss of everything in culture. Loss of solidarity, the loss of man himself. Impactful sentence, very good one. ऐसे के लिए तो बहुत appropriate है. Optional में या GS में, depending on words कितने use कर लिए हैं, कितने बचे हैं, you can choose it and present it in your answer. But in order to make it more impactful for all of you, I have given you a very small one. Here I, rephrased it, made it that you can use this. A language lost is a culture lost. जब आप एक लैंग्वेज खो देते हो, आप एक कल्चर खो देते हो. ये ऐसे की एक बहुत अच्छी हेडिंग बन सकती है. अ लैंग्वेज लॉस्ट इज अ कल्चर लॉस्ट व्हेनेवर यू आर गेटिंग अ टॉपिक ऑन लैंग्वेज और कल्चर, और इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ मीडिया ऑन कल्चर, और इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन ऑन कल्चर, और इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ अर्बनाइजेशन ऑन कल्चर. लिटरली एनीथिंग यू कैन हैव अ कंपोनेंट ऑन लैंग्वेज एंड यू कैन यूज दिस एज अ हेडिंग. अ लैंग्वेज लॉस्ट इज अ कल्चर लॉस्ट. बट ये हेडिंग अभी नेगेटिव सेंस में डाल दिया अपना पॉइंट प्रेजेंट करने के लिए. बट कैन वी ट्राई समथिंग पॉजिटिव? वी कैन ट्राई समथिंग पॉजिटिव. व्हाट कैन दैट बी? बताती हूँ एक मिनट. बट उसके पहले आई वॉन्ट ऑल ऑफ यू टू इंश्योर दैट यू डाउनलोड द ऐप, राइट, टू गेट अपडेट्स ऑन द न्यू इनिशिएटिव्स. आई एम लॉन्चिंग अ न्यू इनिशिएटिव दिस वीक, सो डू डाउनलोड द ऐप. एंड्रॉइड पे भी अवेलेबल है, iOS में भी अवेलेबल है. यू कैन क्लिक ऑन दीज लिंक्स once I share the PDF with you. You will be able to directly access the app. UPSC Aptical के नाम से ही एंड्रॉइड पर है, माई इंस्टीट्यूट के नाम से है iOS पे. टेलीग्राम चैनल ज्वाइन कर लो, वहाँ पे सारे लिंक्स सारी डिटेल्स हैं. इफ यू फील दैट यू आर एक्सपीरियंसिंग डिफिकल्टी एनीवेयर, you can always reach out to me. Now not just on Telegram, you can also reach out to me on WhatsApp. So do let me know if you're experiencing any challenges. I'll be there to help you out. And please subscribe to YouTube. Please do me a favor, if this video has been helpful and you have learned and understood well from this video, please share it with others. Support me in extending the reach of the video so that I can make more such material and provide it to you for free of cost without charging you anything. Help me in reaching more people. I'll be really grateful to all of you. And coming back to this, that a language lost is a culture lost. How can we present it in a positive way? देखो अपना हेडिंग डाला इस तरीके से, अपने सारे की पॉइंट्स दिए, हाउ इट इज अफेक्टिंग. नाउ यू विल ऑलवेज हैव टू टॉक इन अ पॉजिटिव वे, इधर इन योर कंक्लूजन और आपके ऐसे की थीम में भी. तो आप उसको बोलोगे highlighting that how important it is for us to preserve the culture or conserve the culture. How we are going to do it? You are going to say that we can ensure that a language not just survives but thrives, and for that we can revitalize, reclaim or reinvigorate that particular language. And your last sentence for the answer should be that a language saved is a culture saved. So when you save a language, you save a culture. And this is the best example to show you all once again that language and culture are interrelated. Your language influences your culture and your culture influences your language. With this, I am again dropping the important keyword that language and culture का जो relation है वो bi-directional है, not unidirectional. So please use these keywords. Do let me know in the comment section if you like the video, if it was helpful, and if you want more such videos. Also let me know what topics you want me to make more videos on. I will try my best to launch more videos as soon as possible. Because of answer writing and everything, it is going a little hectic for me, but I'll try my best to make more videos and help you all out. All the best. To take care of yourself. Let me know if you need